I'm so excited. We've got two people on the show today, co-founders Tiffany and Mikhara. Thank you so much for joining us at Spark TV. I'm so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you, Danielle. It's awesome to be here and even better with my co-founder. So shout out to Tiff for both being able to do it.
So much. Yep. Feels good to be here.
So cool. Well, let's start out by telling everybody who you are and what you do. So, Mikhara, maybe we'll start with you.
Oh, fantastic, Danielle. Yeah, I don't want to follow Tiff, so happy to go first. And very fortunate to be working with someone like Tiff. But in essence, my background has always been in entrepreneurship. I grew up in South Africa, and my grandfather was a huge influence for me, probably my earliest role model. And I saw how he used business, particularly in like an apartheid South Africa, as a tool for social impact, and particularly what he did with the profits. And it was really upon his funeral, unfortunately, 10 years ago, that I really could see that impact. And I was a teenager at the time and was just in awe of the thousands of people who actually came to the funeral. And like, I know my Indian family is big. I didn't think it was that big. And just like hearing about all the scholarships he provided with his business profits and the people he could put through university and break poverty cycles through education. And I think at that point, it cemented to me as a 17-year-old that that's what I want to do with my life. I would also like to use business as this tool for social impact. So I was very fortunate to pursue a career in that, and since leaving university, and I'm up to my 7th business now that I'm building with Tiff, and we're really focused on structural change. And in the past, I've worked a lot on LGBTI inclusion, gender equality, mental health, suicide prevention, suicide being the biggest killer of young people in Australia. And I'm so fortunate to have sat with so many incredible people and worked across this country and the globe. And yeah, excited to keep making the world a better place. That's what really gives me energy.
So cool. I love it so much. Tiffany, what about you?
Cool. Always love hearing Mikhara's story. So, yep, obviously happy to hear next. So, I would probably I've always considered myself a bit of a problem solver at heart. There's nothing more satisfying than being close to a user or anyone, and it's like, holy, I am actually able to help you get on with your day, better your life in some way. And for me, going into tech, I'm a software engineer, that's my background. Actually getting the tools to be able to code and use that for good seemed like the best way to sort of scale that sort of impact. And so it was almost natural for me to fall into startups. I tried the, big business route. I did my internship at IBM, great tech company, global tech company. But I thought, this doesn't satisfy, the excitement that I can get from being close to a person and that sort of theme of problem solving. And from there, jumped straight into AI and a venture studio in Brisbane. And that journey in 2019 took me from being a research engineer on a bunch of different generative AI projects. And this is 2019, so before it was cool. And then, they backed me as a founder, created my own sort of deepfake detection company. And since then have focused more in the HR tech space and building out those sort of products and honing my skill set across the board. And yeah, very fortunate and grateful to be working with Mikhara and our other co-founder Cam on yes, we're focused on HR, but how do we actually protect people, make them feel safe, but also welcome at work? So that's sort of the problem space that we're focused on now.
I think that is incredible. And I absolutely love that both of you are like, how can we leverage our skill set and business for good and to create impact in the world? And Mikhara, I love how you said that you have this connection with how profits can be a good thing because they can actually help to drive change and help people, break their own poverty cycle and what have you. So cool that the both of you found each other.
Oh, definitely. Feel very lucky. And it was through a LinkedIn post, Danny. It was just
oh, really?
I heard
Shout out
about
LinkedIn.
Tiff in my wider network, and she kindly agreed to like jump on a call after being like, "You're amazing. Can we chat?" And then here we are 6 months later, and I'm sure just like, what have I got myself into?
That's so cool though. Like, it's really interesting. A lot of people ask, where do you go to find a co-founder? And I think, we try and overcomplicate things sometimes, but, as simple as look at the great work that other people are doing out there. And, people are sharing what they're up to on platforms like LinkedIn or at networking events. And so sometimes it is just a matter of connecting with amazing people.
Definitely. And that's what the Spark community does, right? So how cool for us to be part of this too.
Oh, that is incredible. So tell me then, what does the business specifically do?
Yes, and as Tiff mentioned, we are lucky to have another very value aligned co founder, Cam, who's a Churchill Fellow in Domestic and Family Violence Prevention and
Wow.
also in front end user experience design and e learning. And it really was a culmination of the three of us getting together and looking at our skill sets and thinking, where can we leverage our skill sets to make the most impact? And we were really focused on we'd come from sort of grassroots activism. You know, we were working on ground with communities. Tiff as a woman in tech, myself in the LGBTI sector, Cam in domestic and family violence. And there's a lot of good work that goes into empowering individuals. But we were very conscious of this mantra of let's not try to fix women or fix people of color
Yes.
or, you know, let's try and change systems. So we were really set then on a tech tool, something that businesses would use and integrate in their systems. And in essence, what it is, it's a people management tool. It's a culture management tool. It provides access to knowledge frameworks that incredible people at the front line develop, like domestic violence prevention experts, like LGBT inclusion, gender equity. It sort of cuts out the middleman of consulting, which sells knowledge at a premium, and it gives all businesses, particularly the 66% of Australians employed by small and medium businesses, access to this framework so they can implement them in their workplaces and create best practice environments. We just feel like there's this huge opportunity to innovate with leveraging tools like AI to make best workplaces accessible for everyone. So you can truly bring your whole self to work. Because we think leaders, bosses, owners, like they want to do good, they just don't know how, or they think it's too
Mhm.
expensive. So that's what we're really wanting to solve for. But Tiff, please feel free to add to that.
No, you always do such a great job. That's pretty much it. And so I think especially in Australia, there's a lot of focus on, you know, culture at work and how do we enable cultural change, even in the startup space. Well, is culture amp even a startup anymore? So there's a huge focus on it necessarily. You know, this is where we spend most of our lives, really. And so when it comes to cultural change, I guess the product we're trying to build is um, how do we enable that through the lens of policy and compliance?
Mm.
So not only, of course, is there goodwill to make work a better environment, but now legislation's come down to, you know, help respect, it's literally respected
Mm.
work, but also policies protect, enable like, you know, domestic and family violence, you know, sufferers. How do we actually make them feel safe in this environment? So that's how we're sort of segmenting it as well. Yeah.
And I think the key moment for us is, you know, there's this fallacy that we think, you know, you separate your personal and your private life, and
Mm.
oh, like DFV, it's not a workplace issue. Oh, mental health, not a workplace issue. But if the last decades have taught us anything, and particularly the law is catching up to this, and you know, if the law is saying something which is such a slow moving beast, then as society we should move faster. And if it is legislating respected work, a positive duty to create respectful environments, discrimination not occurring on the basis of sex or sexual gender identity, then we just felt like, where's the tool to help people do this? We're being told we have to do this. And it actually is a workplace health and safety issue. We know you can't leave your mental health at the door when you walk into work. That's actually part psychosocial factors of how you perform. And it's
Mm.
really what we're targeting for business on the other end, like long-term outcomes, is this is addressing the $1 trillion employee retention problem, because we found in surveying respondents and on global studies of people who leave, two-thirds would be willing to stay for lower money if they just had a good work environment. And we know
Wow.
it's not the money at the end of the day, it's the people you work with. So
Yes.
imagine if your workplace was equipped to support you in all your facets of life, and that's what we really want to make accessible.
I think that's so cool because as a small business owner, I think employee retention is really difficult. And I think we're very quick to say, oh, well, it's just they're going after more salary. So, of course, they're going to go
Mm,
and find another job. But I think you're right. You know, it is our responsibility to create amazing workplaces on all levels, you know, both from the work that people perform, you know, that it's aligned to their values and skill sets, but you're right, these external issues that are not external issues at all, that are actually
we
meld
carry with
across
us.
home and
Yeah.
yeah, and the workplace. But again, I love what you said earlier around, you know, as small business owners, sometimes we don't know what to do, you know,
No,
and we
and
feel
honestly, you're just trying to
shamed.
get money through the door. Yeah. And at the end of the day,
Totally.
right, you're a small business. You just need to keep the lights on. So
Mm.
why not leave it to someone like us where we can do all that for you in a really affordable way? Like we're not tens of thousands of dollars. Like consultants, and we think everyone should have access to this. And we're exploring options to how do we make this so accessible. And I think that comes back to impact is what really drives us, and it's win-win-win. Like when you take care of your people, they take care of your business. Like any business owner knows that.
It's so true. I love it so much. So how did you meet your third co-founder? Was that also LinkedIn or some other?
Are you taking away Nick's?
Yeah, no, so fortunately, I was inspired to get to know Cam. We've been friends through the social enterprise community. We're actually all Brisbane locals, and now sort of branched out around, but Bris Vegas is where it's at for our social entrepreneurs. So Cam and I knew each other through mutual friends in the sector, and I've just always been inspired by his work and sort of the networks in that area and making impact on these global scales. And so he had capacity to do something. I said, right, Cam, let's get chatting. And then we found Tiff, and it's really just taken off.
Oh, that's so cool. And so tell me then, as three co-founders starting a business, growing a business, what's it like working together? And now that you've got some remote team, like how do you manage actually communicating, delegating tasks, connecting? How does that work as three co-founders?
Tiff, maybe you start, because I think Tiff actually guided a lot of this. And right from the get-go, when we were starting to work together, Tiff shared a brilliant questionnaire that pushed us to think about things as co-founders of a startup. But Tiff, I'll leave the story to you. I am inspired by the way you guided us.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Yes, I forgot about that. So I think to answer the question, surprisingly well. I think we work surprisingly well together. I don't know why surprising is the response there, but because we are mainly remote first, and Mix, you're usually around Canberra. Cam does a lot of traveling for work, so one of the tenets of good co-founder communication is, that's it, being willing to and able to be vulnerable about, can I deliver this or what's going on, but really have those conversations that'll drive like moving the business forward. So I think having that is like so evident in how Mikhara and like Cam and how we work together. Like we're not afraid to say really anything that comes to mind or shoot down ideas sort of lovingly. It's like, okay, well, we're reminding ourselves, why are we doing this? What's this for? And it's really like the constructive communication. And yeah, to that resource, Mikhara, that you mentioned earlier, first round review, I think they're a great venture capitalist fund in the US, but they do amazing content and articles. And that co-founder questionnaire, it's almost like a dating questionnaire resource, and it's like 50 questions long of
Yeah, it was like a
like
dating
really,
questionnaire, wasn't it?
really, yeah, like, and it's really like how do you work best? All these, I don't know, all these deep dives into like almost who you are as a person and examining the relationship. And I'd come across this resource a couple of years back, but yeah, instrumental, I think, in setting that tone of conversation, how we can work together.
Yeah, and I think particularly Cam and I were conscious, like we had a friendship of many years, and we wanted us to all feel very equal, and we're very conscious of to feeling that. So it was great to have like an asset or a survey that we started off on. And it was questions like, what is your personal exit plan? Like at what point? It was pretty it took me a good day to complete. And I think the other article that Tiff shared that really helped me, particularly in a startup where you're wearing multiple hats. And before Tiff came on board, I was sort of doing a bit of the coding in a very janky way. Like Tiff is very much the software engineer. But another article she shared was talking about how to give back your Lego blocks, and realizing that our Lego blocks are changing every day. And whilst we might feel like we're giving them up, we're actually just getting new Legos to play with. And that kind of reframing really helped me when I thought about my role in this company, because it was so defined for just 1 month. I was doing developing and Cam was doing the front end. And now actually got a developer. So what am I doing now? Okay, what new Lego blocks can I pick up? And that sort of thinking has personally really helped me as someone who always feels like they need to be doing. So I also really appreciated that too.
That's so cool. And it's so true, isn't it? I think there's like two really important streams there. The first one is to really be open and honest about who you are and what your plan is in business. I think getting on the same page, because I think we all do have our own stories, our own journeys, our own vision for the future. And if you know where each other is at, you can kind of accommodate each other a little bit more accordingly. But yeah, I love what you just said as well about the, what's my role? Because I know, so in my other business, Scrunch, I did have a co-founder at one stage and had a pseudo third co-founder. And it was really difficult. Like, we stepped on each other's toes so much in the beginning. Like, it was crazy. And so it wasn't until we actually did sit down and go, okay, this is what I do, this is what you do. And we just have to trust each other and
Yep.
trust that our skills are our skills. And the reason we've come together is because we respect those skills. Oh my God, that was life-changing going through that
Yeah.
process.
Trust and respect. Yeah, that really
Mm.
stands out to me.
Yeah, but I
And I
love that you did it at the start.
No, we did. And something that Cam said, so we're really diligent on our like retrospectives. And I think particularly in the sprints phase of like building an MVP, like this product changes every day, sometimes hourly. And I really appreciate what comes out of our retros and our commitment to it. And something Cam said, which I think also really guides us, is as individuals, we're all three very driven, high achieving individuals. Like we like to, so how does that work when you put them together in multiple uncertainties, right? Like we're doing user research, doing product research, doing go to market research, doing funding research. And I think he said something that was just so beautiful. It was like, dependency is a good thing. And I know that just
Yep.
shifted everything for me, where it's like previously, and particularly in part of big organizations, you're carrying the team, you're having to build everything and just show up and present. And that's what you're being paid to do. And that's why you've got 100 people there. But here it's been so awesome to like talk first, understand skill sets first, what people can do in our team, and then sort of go away and do the doing, and just to be more dependent. And I really enjoy that. I think because respect and trust.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's so important. I mean, I know we're talking about it in the context of a co-founder relationship, but even when you think about the fact that our teams largely are remote or a hybrid model these days, you've got to have that within the team as well, I think.
Mm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think also it's really interesting, the product that you're building will help to enable that as well.
That's a great point, Danny. And something we're conscious of, we're like, if we're trying to help companies affect culture, we need to have a great culture. So, you know,
Yeah, you need to know what good looks like.
Exactly.
yeah. So we're always consciously checking on that. And it all adds to like making this scalable.
That's so cool. I love it so much. So tell me, where's the product at from an in-market point of view? Are you in market? Are you in development? Where are you at?
Mix, you want to take? I
Oh
mean,
no, I was
I'll
gonna
give
give it to
the
you
short
too. Yeah.
response. I'll give the short response. So, at the moment, we're still in building phase. So, like MVP. We have partnered with, I guess, one of the industry leaders. I don't know if I could say their name yet, Mix, but one
No
of the leaders.
spoilers.
No spoilers yet. When it comes to implementing sort of like these long-term workplace cultural changes, and working with them to sort of develop a product that we could test within, let's say, the medium enterprise market. So that's sort of the phase we're at now. But we did release a beta policy generator back in December. And that was to really test our mettle when it came to how can we leverage AI to build like a best practice, and reframe the idea of bare minimum best practice, bullying and discrimination harassment policy, that can be freely available for all businesses to use and implement. That's still out, but now we're sort of, how do we integrate that with sort of the enterprise side of things, the like putting in a dashboard or management. We're building out those features at the moment. So I think slated for maybe April, May release, seeing how we go. So
Yeah, it's crunch
that's where we're
time.
at. Yeah.
My God, this is the time. Oh my God, this is the
Absolutely.
I always know with my engineers used to say to me, it's like the last 10% is actually the 80%, like it's 80, 90%,
Oh my gosh, yes, yes, we can definitely. But it
Absolutely.
feels like we've been doing 80% since we go.
Yeah.
Like, when we sit back and look at what we've done, I'm like, oh my goodness. And it's only been what, 6 months too that we started working
Wow.
together.
I
So
think so. Time
yeah,
flies when you're having fun. And it is
it does.
fun.
That is
Yes.
so cool. I love it. So then that raises the question, how are you funded currently?
No, great question. And the thing that I'm sure keeps all startup founders up at night. So I think the serendipity of this too is we were all at a beautiful time in our life to commit to something like this and commit to it to the extent we want to take it. So we are bootstrapping, like that's the short end of it, and hustling. So Tiff picks up other contract work, Cam's running another business, I was running multiple businesses. But I think what I've always appreciated in our like sprint cadence is we always show up with meetings and we've always got something to contribute. So I know kind of the common myths perhaps of the startup world in Silicon Valley earlier was you should be doing this full time, but it's not realistic. It's not realistic for
No.
us at our generation, particularly as women.
Yeah.
You know, there's multiple unpaid care responsibilities we all have as well. So I'm very happy to push back on investors when they do say that, because we have grit, and if that is the biggest measure of delivery. And if anything, it just adds to our tenacity to get things done, because yeah, we're hustling, we've got skin in the game, we're determined.
I respect that so much. I totally agree. I know when I started, so my tech business Scrunch, and we were coming up, it was exactly that. It was raise lots of
Oh, I bet.
money, spend
Yeah.
lots of money, work on it full time, blah, 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 blah. And I worked full time for as long as I could before we finally took funding. And then I had
That's
to quit my
awesome,
job.
Danny. Yeah.
But you're right. Like, it's just,
Mm.
it's so, it always shocks me when investors say things like that, because it's like, well, how am I paying rent? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
how am I eating food? Like, I'm happy to eat noodles, but I still got to pay the $2 for the noodles,
Yeah. Just it's quite a privilege to not
Yeah.
yeah, have to like hustle to do it. But I think then you're not hungry, and I think it's
Mm,
such an advantage to us to have
yes.
that kind of intrinsic pressure.
I agree. And also I feel like, you get more things done in the time that you have, right? Like, if you
Definitely.
only have a few
Absolutely.
hours in the afternoon or one day a week or weekends or whatever
Mhm.
it is, I always say that mums are the best business owners.
Oh, I have no doubt. Yes.
Because it's like they get shit done, they get the most done in the time that they have. Like, I could sit, if I have a day without meetings, I get nothing done. Today
Yep.
I've got like back-to-back meetings, and I will do more today in the tiny little pockets that
Absolutely.
I have.
It's funny,
Oh
hey? See
yeah.
how our brains work? Yes.
It is ridiculous, but I do love that, because you're passionate about what you're doing and you found a way to make it work for each of your different circumstances. And also the fact that you are bootstrapping and putting your money and your time where your mouth is, like, shows that you are really excited about this business and have what it takes to see it through.
Thanks, Danielle. We
Thank
appreciate your
you.
positive. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
It's
hell
nice to
yeah.
hear that, because that's often not the response. So thank you.
No, no, I love it. I love it. So where to from here? What can we expect from you in the next 12 months
What do you
besides
reckon,
the
Tiff? As
imminent launch?
Well, domination.
Yes.
At a
Yes,
minimum.
I love it.
Oh, it's hard to say. I think maybe I'm more tactical and sort of keeping my eyes on the ground with the product in front of me. But I mean, ideally, I'd love to. I don't know. I think next 2, 3 months for me, it's like when we launch, I'd love to get, in the tens of users or companies that we're potentially signed with. And then I think that 0 to 1 is the hardest part. And then how do we make it scalable from there?
Yes.
I think we'd love to be part of accelerators as well. We've been applying here and there, potentially, in the US as well. And I think that, for example, I've done textiles before in the US. And I think that lens of genuinely accelerated business development is
Mm.
yeah, the access to like growth opportunities, and that could only be a good thing. So that's my vague answer. I don't know, Mix, if you have any
No, I
hard
love it,
targets that
Tiff.
you'd love us to hit. Yeah.
No, and I think it's very real. We are in the 0 to 1 game, and I love that you kept it very real. Like, just tens of users, honestly. That's where we're up to, because the way in which we're building this is very patterned. And so if we do this once for 0 to 1, we can really get into a very quick turnaround cycle to do product after product after product. But it is the 0 to 1 game. And I think the biggest reminder to me, particularly when I think like this is tough, like I can't do this without Tiff and Cam, and your natural anxieties come over. You don't want to lose the good people that you're working with. But I realize we're so motivated by our vision. We're so motivated by our knowledge partners we're working with. So the leading industry organization we're signed with, their vision is a world free of domestic and family violence. Like, we are so inspired to be able to tech partner and do that for them. And our vision is a world where compliance is best practice. Like when we're talking about climate, when we're talking about gender equity, like the vision is so big that I don't think we'll ever lose our appetite. So in 12 months, yes, I'm going to hit 0 to 1 and perhaps get another second framework out. I think that's a really awesome big goal for the next 12 months.
That's so
Absolutely.
cool. And it's just, I love it so much because, I think especially in this Instagram world we live in, where it's like you need to be a billionaire tomorrow, people don't remember that you have to get to one first. Like that,
Yep.
there is no,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how big your goals are from a user point of view, customer point of view, money point of view, you have to get to one first. You actually can't skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it is those early numbers that help you iron out product kinks, that help you understand what marketing, what messaging's working, and then you can scale. So I love the acknowledgement that you have to get to 1. I think that's awesome.
Thanks, Tammy.
What do you think that your biggest challenge getting to 1 will be?
I think the reality is of doing an impact-led business is that there's 2 components to this. There's the education piece. And I
Yeah.
think we have, yeah. So unfortunately, 1 woman dies a week from DSV in Australia, and that's been happening for decades. And still, we have to make a business case for why the workplace could be a great intervention point. So we are conscious that is a take of our resources, our ability. We can't just build product for needs. And I think that's reflective of all people honestly trying to make the world a better place. We have to educate. We exist in a system that doesn't value things in equitable ways. And we're after systems change. So for me, that's the biggest barrier. I'm always conscious of the education, then the product, the education, then the product. But I'm hopeful. I think each generation keeps getting better. I do think the world is getting better. So it gives me hope. Tiff, what about you? What do you reckon is some of the biggest
hurdles? Yeah, I think it is the sell in a way. It's the issues that we're trying to address, and the concept of making people feel safe in the workplace or protected. It's a multi-layered problem. And the whole point of this is someone's life, or this affects someone directly if it's not being addressed. But then also I've got to, how do I frame this to an exec so that, oh, you've got to implement this policy in this way or include this clause so that they don't feel left out. It's like separating that or integrating that sort of product mindedness to a real issue. I think, Mikhara, you're explaining it a bit better than I am. So I think it's that, and I think just getting it in front of users. So yeah, and just like testing the product and getting to that one.
I love it.
Excited for that.
Oh, totally. And I think you're spot on. I do love that you have hope though, because I do think you're right. We live in a time where, information is so readily accessible, and there are people now championing this cause. So, it's great that we've almost got a little bit of awareness. So now you're coming in with the awareness and the solution. So that's
great point,
really
Danielle.
cool.
Yeah. Yes.
I love it. I love it so much. Well, we could talk all day, but let's leave our beautiful Spark podcast community with one last piece of advice. So I'm going to call on both of you. No one's getting off the hook here. So reflecting on your time in business, whether it be this business or previous businesses, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to another woman in business to help her on her journey?
Yeah, it's always hard when you're trying to think of one. But community is always the word that comes to my mind. Like, I have done the solo founder thing a few times, and I just would never do it again. I just, the strength I get from Tiff and Cam to rock up in this bootstrapped business, and we all have really high opportunity costs, right? Like, we're all very skilled. We know what we could be doing in market, but where's the impact? And I think just living for something bigger. So I think for me, it's like community and vision. And I think the reminder is realize what your baseline is. Like, you've worked so hard to get there, you can always go back there. So take the risk if it makes sense. And I think that's what reminds me, like, I wouldn't be doing anything else. And I know that is a privilege to say as well, but I'm also reminded of my baseline. I'm like, okay, this is what I can go back to, but I'm not making the impact I want to make in the world.
I love that.
That's great.
What about you, Tiff?
Honestly, like, don't be afraid to be yourself. I mean, you're starting a business or wherever you are in that stage of business, it's like you got to know yourself as well in terms of, I don't know. I've been grappling with this recently, so I can't package it up nicely, but when I've made the most progress, both in this startup and I reflect on a previous startup, it was when I was unafraid to voice my concerns in the way that I experienced them, and people genuinely listened to me. It's like, oh, okay, but that's the second part of it, like having that community around you and having the people, your co-founders, or that will actually reflect that and support you along the way. So I don't know if that helps.
I think you said
Yeah.
it perfectly. I think you said it perfectly. I could not agree with you more. You know, when we are our true selves and we show up vulnerably and we're open
Yeah.
and we're honest, we make the most progress. We make deeper connections with the people around us in our community, on our team, whether that be founders or, you know, just helpers or whatever it might be. So I think you both absolutely nailed it. You guys are incredible.
Oh,
Thank you so much for sharing your stories and your wisdom on Spark TV. I'm so grateful for you.
we love chatting to you, Danielle. Thank you for having us, an opportunity to reflect together, and for your kind words of encouragement too. It really makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks so much, Danielle. Thank
Oh
you.
my God. No, I'm so excited for the next 12 months for you guys. And we will have you back where in 12 months' time to check in on progress and to
Sounds
share
great.
all of the
Oh
goodness
yeah.
with all of the people in the Spark community that should be getting their hands on this tool. So I'm so excited to share it with everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks so
Danielle.
much.